Nathan, you bring up the offensive coordinator switch. Did you jump into the fray much in regards to your criticism of the approach of the school, the administration, as it weighs in on the situation with Andy Ludwig and the pursuit of an offensive coordinator?
I think you know me by now, Mark. I'm not usually the one that's going to come out with super negative comments or anything like that. But I mean, I think that the optics were probably worse than the approach, if that makes sense. I think, from the outside looking in, it's hard to fathom, how you sort of botch like the Andy Ludwig situation or don't end up with a better guy than at least from a name basis than Gerad Parker. But I think overall, and this is actually something dating back to when Gerad Parker was hired at Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman is pretty infatuated with him as a person and as a football mind. So when he was hired, like I was told by people in the industry that there's a decent chance he's the next OC at Notre Dame. So when Reese ended up bolting for Alabama, Parker was always sort of in the back of my mind, even though I didn't necessarily feel it was the first choice. So when Colin Klein ultimately decided to stay at Kansas State or whatever happened there, I know there's kind of some give and take on whether or not he was officially offered. I think he was, and then obviously the Ludwig situation. I think that there's some facts around that maybe certain fans don't realize. I guess what I'm really getting at is I'm not sure Notre Dame was just unwilling to pay a buyout. And I think that was where the optics sort of lied. I find that to be faulty information. I think that there were some negotiations that sort of went awry, and then Ludwig ultimately ended up kind of just deciding at Utah when all things were kind of said and done. And then I think with that, Freeman decided to turn to a guy that he trusted and a guy that he thinks can rein this offense in and do a really good job overall. So I'm excited to see what he can do. He wouldn't have been my first choice, but I think he is a good football mind. I've heard him talk and, how recruits talk about him, what he's been like in interviews and different things like that. And, I'm excited to see what he could do because I guess on the other hand I think he was sort of the scapegoat of West Virginia when Neil Brown was probably the bigger issue there. So we'll see how it goes. It definitely wasn't the sexiest hire, and I'll give it that. But sometimes I think the sexiest, the hires that are the least sexy end up being the best ones.